Always, every time. Guys, and welcome back to Galactic Explorers with your favorite channelers, Miss Dallas and myself, Miss Daniella. I was going to say the Miss Daniella, so apparently I'm a the now.
You're
Um,
the.
I am the. Welcome back to the podcast that takes you through the earthly, everyday, and spiritual concepts through that galactic perspective. Today, we've actually had an interesting series of events kind of trample across both of our lives recently. And we just wanted to kind of throw that out there and share our experiences and kind of what we've been using as tools to navigate it, dealing with things like the heavy triggers that we get that make us feel those really, really strong fucking emotions like that seething hate, feelings of like regret and guilt, uh,
Shame.
worthiness issues and triggers all along those kinds of lines. So we were going to dive into triggers and kind of yeah, what we can do to work with those. So triggers it is.
Let's trigger away. Pew, 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 pew.
That's gonna that's gonna be the thumbnail, you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we were talking about before we got on here. We basically did the whole podcast before we got on here, and then decided it was like, oh, maybe we should hit the record button and try again.
Juicy stuff, man.
Yeah, it was good stuff. You were sharing an experience with me that happened to you at work the other day, dealing with your past in the church and having that kind of come back up for you and how you were feeling about it and all of these things. And then we were talking about some of those different kinds of triggers that made me feel the same way, but they were about different stuff. So let's, if you don't mind, sharing with the audience a little bit about what that was so that maybe they can hear the example and maybe see themselves in it so they can go, oh, okay, so they know where we're coming from. So it's like, all right, so what do we do about it? So
Right. Yes.
yeah.
So I work in an acupuncture office, wellness center, and we had a couple of missionaries come in to receive acupuncture, which is great. Awesome. And then we had another client come in that, receiving acupuncture treatment, was also a member of their church, and they're back listening to, or they're in the waiting room, and I'm listening to their conversation because I'm right there. And it kind of triggered me because a lot of things they were talking about of family and church and how worshiping, hasn't been a thing because of COVID. So it was just a lot of triggers, a lot of stuff for me that came back of why I left the church. I was telling Daniella as well that I feel that I can't get away from them. That, we said our goodbyes and our departure, and we're no longer part of the church. And we've had instances where they would email us or stop by our house unwelcomed and not leave. And I find myself just, there's missionaries everywhere, and they just come to me and start talking, and I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm very kind. If you belong to religious, it's fine. There's nothing wrong. It's just for me, I'm not part of that anymore. And it triggers me because I had some negative feedback, I guess, from him, or just a lot of
experiences through it, or
I had just a lot of personal stuff that came up, and it doesn't follow my truth anymore and how I see the spiritual world. And so that for me was, I was trying to be in a box, try to fill others' expectations. And, I wasn't meeting those quotas, or I didn't have that same belief. So it was like, I'm not fitting in a box anymore. And that's why I left, because there was more than worshiping in one little building for me. So talking with Daniella of, okay, this really triggered me. This really brought up a lot of those emotions and everything that we went through and how angry I felt. And it was just like, what do I do about that? Like, what are they trying to show me? What are they like? What is this all about? Like, come on now. I've done so much work. What else is there to do? And I'm obviously holding on to the anger out of it. And then Daniela beautifully chimed
Mhm.
in of her experience of the same kind of thing of having an expectation with your
Yep.
parents,
Yep.
and not meeting their expectations and harboring that same kind of feelings and stuff, but with just a
Totally. Hmm.
different storyline.
Yeah. And it was the whole thing too of being able to, like we were talking about it, it's like now being in a different place about it than, because I remember feeling more how you do now about the topic with my parents than I do now. And I'm still working it because we're all still working all different layers of all kinds of,
Right. Yes.
all the things, all
Yes.
around us. But the thing that came to mind to share with Dallas was uh, you have to accept, like for real, not just intellectually,
Mm-hmm.
that they can't hurt you anymore. They can't hurt you. It's over. It's done. Whatever it was when you felt hurt by them in whatever way, whether it was literal or figurative or whatever, is now in past.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
gone. It is no longer the you that you are standing, shitting here right now. You're not shitting here the same person that you were shitting back then.
Sure ain't.
You're not, it's not the same person on the toilet anymore. Okay. It's not.
A whole different kind of shit.
That's the way to work in those Freudian slips when you fuck up.
Good one. I like it.
Just roll with it. Just roll with it. But really, I mean, and just roll with it. But the
Yeah.
whole idea is that they can't, the you that you are now, they can't hurt if you don't decide that that's still a caveat.
Mm-hmm.
You
100.
can now make the decision that and have the acceptance of knowing, like you accept within yourself that you are yourself enough, that you are enough yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that they can't hurt you, regardless of what they say or try to do or not do or what. So it was that same idea, though, because I never had, it's like I grew up a bit in the church, but I never had as, it's like ours was way super chill, relaxed Methodist. Like they're like, they're cool, they're chilling
Yeah.
in comparison to some of the other branches of faith, we'll say, that are a little bit more,
Strict.
well, not only strict, but they, it's like you said, it's like they're very adamant.
Right. I think, some you're in a bubble and you have to stay in that bubble and you go
Right.
outside of that bubble
Oh
and
yeah. Well, that's that adamancy.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
like, right.
totally. Yes.
So it's like, so I came up in a different relationship to religion than Dallas did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so when I broke away, quote unquote, from religion, it was just like, all right, peace. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I'll still come sing in the choir though. I mean, just because I like singing. But yeah, I'll see you down for Wendy's. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, all right, like we'll go get Frosties and fries and like, whatever, like it was a whole different relationship. But I had those same feelings towards different aspects of parts of my life. I could even take those same feelings and apply them to, realizing that they come up in all kinds of situations all across the board.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Right. So then the question for us while we were having this conversation came, well, then what do you do about it?
Right. How do you
How do
process?
you,
How do
right? Yeah.
you
How
get
do
on
you,
the other
well, how do you
side?
pull yourself out of it? Not just one, pull yourself out of it, but then, yeah, how is it useful to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I know for a long time, you, I personally felt, and I know that it, for a lot of people still feels like you get trapped by those emotions
Mm-hmm.
and can't seem to work your way out of them. Like
Yes.
you're just stuck being pissed off. You're just stuck being scared. You're stuck being fearful of something or someone or some event, some potentiality, like something. You're stuck feeling unworthy, in relation to another, like whatever.
Yeah.
So what was, go ahead. So what was shared by oh yeah, it's the window. That's right. Dallas opened the window so she gets some nice air, and then of course,
on their lawn. Hell.
It's just been our kind of week, folks. Speaking of triggers, right? Trigger, hello. But the whole idea then is to, when you're feeling that feeling, you don't have to be trapped in it. And one of my favorite channelers, Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, was sharing a technique that I was sharing with Dallas. And it was this. When you're, I know, it's like, do tell. And it's all about catching yourself in the moment. And I know everybody says that, but the more you can catch it, the easier it'll happen as you go along. So you catch it and you catch yourself, like Dallas said, okay, I'm pissed off. Whatever this is, this interaction, it's reminding me of stuff. It's reminding me of negative experiences I've had, bringing up these memories, all of this stuff. And that's bringing up this wellspring of physical sensation and emotion in me that I currently identify as being pissed off. So when I personally, as Dallas, feel that feeling, sends that physical sensation, I associate that like heat and with being angry, hatred, seethingness. The trick, though, that Bashar was sharing, and this works for any emotion, because you could be gripped in fear, you could be gripped in sadness and depression, like you could be gripped in anything, is to bring your focus less on the emotional content of the feeling and more to the physical sensation itself. So you're bringing your mental focus. Don't even try and think about it. Don't even try and logic yourself. Say like, okay, now we're going to think about this. Now we're going to focus on this. You don't have to do any of that.
No.
Just like the second you realized you're pissed off, the second you realized you're depressed, the second you realize that you're not feeling worthy, the second you realize you're feeling fearful and you don't want to feel that anymore, and you're like, okay, I'm done playing now. Associate yourself with the physical sensation. Because in associating your focus to the physical sensation, you're doing a couple of things. First off, you are disassociating yourself from the emotional negative content that you have associated with said feeling, because the power of the feeling, of the energetics of that feeling itself, are neutral, because that power is what's behind joy too. That power is what's behind all the other emotions. It's the same power. So by disassociating yourself from the negative content of the feeling, you're then, in that twofold aspect, more acquainting yourself with that physical sensation as what it is, which is the raw, neutral power of emotional frequency that you have within your body. So you have a superpower as a human being to feel emotion, that wellspring of emotion, literally, because it feels like it comes up from within, right? Feels like it blooms in your chest. They say it bloom, like it's a feeling. Anytime you are feeling anything, you are dropping a stone into the water. That's what ripples out. And as they say, what you put out is what you get back. It's not necessarily just deeds, and it certainly ain't really your thoughts. Because God help you if it was your thoughts. Let's be real.
Amen to that.
I mean, if your thoughts ran the fucking show, let's be real. Thoughts can be useful as a tool, but if your thoughts actually ran the show as far as what the universe took as instruction from you,
Right.
We'd all
And
be fucked. We'd all be fucked.
I love that you mentioned it, because it brings, like you said, it brings that power in your body. You're fully engaged with your body.
Right.
And like you said, that's what we're here to feel it and to experience it, but not to hold on to it, right? And to like, I don't have to hold on to that emotion
Nope.
as anger. I can hold
Nope.
on to it as, oh, this is a powerful moment that
Right.
I can feel it and I can be in control of it.
Right. It's not even being in control. You're just recognizing it as solid power within yourself.
Right.
And then as you recognize it as power, it will naturally melt away, which
Right.
it's supposed to do.
Right.
So you're back to a more neutral emotional state, which you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not necessarily on peace all the time. I mean, there's going to be fluctuations, like your heartbeat's supposed to have fluctuations too, by the way. So
Yeah,
it's supposed to
of
be
course.
normal. But it's like, instead of having those high peaks and then having those high peaks and really deep low valleys really just fucking disturb your life for days and weeks and months on end.
Right. You take control of not allowing that to take
Right.
over your life.
Right.
Right.
By using the tool of just associating yourself with that physical feeling. Because
Right.
then what you've done is you've associated with that feeling. Then you're like, you can recognize it. You'll start to recognize it as, oh, this is literally the same feeling as when I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. The only difference is that my brain is coloring it a different flavor.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally the difference.
Right. And your reactions to even the situation of things can change. Like
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. So, but then if you've got an understanding of like a knowing
Mm-hmm.
of what that feeling feels like physical sensation wise, that's when you have your ultimate power of being able to recall that sensation as any emotion you want. So if you want it to be excitement, if you want it to be passion, if you want it to be this thing, if you want to start quote unquote manifesting what you want in your real life, that's what they're talking about in The Secret. That's what they're talking about in the law of attraction, is like, you know, they say it's like, think of your best fucking life, you know, and then go for it. We're like, well, the whole idea is think of your best fucking life is to get you so excited that your frequency that you're putting out, the rocks that you're dropping in the pond are of a particular frequency. That's what resonates back to you, rather than your depression, rather than your fear, rather than your anger.
Yeah.
Because the more you can put out stones consciously, it doesn't even matter if the thing that you thought about happens, because something better is going to happen.
Oh, totally.
There's another thing that was like Bashar said too, that I want to add to this. And then we didn't talk about this, but talking about the whole thought thing, like thought versus feeling, like who has the real power, right? Because our brains have been taught that they're the ones in control. Like the logical mind, ego, brain, personality has been taught that it's needs to be in control of everything, of how everything happens and all this stuff. So it thinks of an outcome that is the quote unquote most desirable possible outcome, right? And then of course it gives you shit if you don't reach it. But here's the thing, the clue, the thing that Bashar was sharing is that your brain, in a sense, is operating on the lowest frequency possible in comparison to your highest self. So the best thing possible that your logic brain could think of as an ideal, as the best possible outcome, is literally the least possible outcome. I mean, the least exciting outcome that could possibly happen. So the best thing your brain can actually think of is actually the least best thing that your higher self can think of. That's how much more your higher self can surprise you with if you detach yourself from the expectation. And that's that other trick that most people don't get about the law of attraction, and that's like a whole other topic. But talking about the feeling versus the thought,
right,
using them is because they're two different tools. So you use the thought to get you excited with the feeling, and then have the feeling radiating out into the field,
Right.
and then let it go and let it naturally dissipate and go back to a more neutral state and continue on doing whatever you were doing with your day and letting universe work with that. Just bring it up, whatever makes you excited. And you're like, yeah, fuck yeah. Just think about it, feel it, associate yourself with the physical sensation of it, and then let it naturally die off
Mm-hmm.
and go back to a neutral state. It works for the good stuff and the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you can just associate yourself with the feeling and then utilize the feeling when you want to, that's how you manifest. Because you are consciously taking control, like you said, consciously taking control over utilizing your own tools that's built into your system.
Right. Our bodies are so magical and we are so unplugged from them
Yeah.
that bringing that awareness in and,
Right.
you know, giving our power back to
To
ourselves,
ourselves.
to that emotion and allowing those emotions to come up. But in the sense, like you said, just that's amazing. Like, it's so amazing that our bodies can do so much. Like,
Right. And then people don't even recognize it because they don't associate that as a power. They just like, oh, it feels like anger. Yeah.
sure. Because,
The reason that anger feels so strong because
yeah.
there's a strong fucking power behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But that same fucking power behind it is also behind joy and excitement,
Oh, yeah.
curiosity, love. It's the same power. So
Right.
if
It's
you can
that.
feel it and bring it up, that's when you are in your mastery.
Mm-hmm.
And then anytime negative shit comes up, you just go, oh, I'm getting pissed off. This pisses me off. Well, you know what? I don't even need to know why this pisses me off, but just like you just ground into the feeling and you're like, okay, well, I'm not getting hurt by it now. And then you move on with your day. So you've basically nullified it in that sense. You can literally use the same tool to nullify and amplify.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts.
It is nuts. I can't wait to play with that more because it's
Right?
just like I
It's
think
a
there's
new
so
one.
much more that we could build on that.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many layers to it. It's amazing.
Yeah. You can use it every layer.
Yeah. And then the more you do it, the more like the reaction that you come is just, I don't know. I'm amazed right now. I'm processing this. I'm downloading it right now.
Well, download and I'll do our outro then. So
Yeah. I'm like,
I just sent Dallas to space camp apparently. Bought and paid for. Love you, girl. Bye. Have a great time. You deserve a vacation. Oh my God. Well, and I guess thank you guys for joining us. I hope that was helpful for you out there and to realize that you can take control of those moments for yourself and utilize your triggers as a positive tool. So if you have any instances that you're running into that you're having a really hard time with, or you have other comments and questions and things about what we talked about today, please always drop them below in the comments. We love to hear from you guys and to answer your questions and to have your topics get put in the bowl and all that stuff. Thank you for watching and hanging out with us too. Like, subscribe, and share this with all of your friends that would like this crazy alternative perspective to our everyday problems. And so from Dallas and myself, thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next time. So gosh, because Dallas has got to go to space camp. She got to take a breather.
get out of here. I gotta go. I don't know when I'll be back, but you know.
We'll be back. We'll be back sometime. We'll be back next week, I'm sure. I'll be able to tether her and bring her back down for next week. It'll be fine. I'll get her. She'll be fine. Somebody get the hose.